Hello, how are you? I'm Christopher Balzano. Natalie is on the west side of the Mound, and we are tripping on legends. We are here at Philippe Park, here in Safety Harbor. This is our first time we're here with Dr. Marnie Stark. We have spent the first part taping an episode of her paranormal pets episode, and now we are here actually at the park and at the Mound. As you can see, I'm kind of like 3/4 of the way up, and you can see how steep it is. This is by far the biggest mound that we've ever been to. But I want to just kind of give you guys some perspective. This is near Tampa, St. Pete. I'm going to give you guys some perspective of what it looks like around. So as you can see, I'm not quite sure if this is the bay, but as you can see kind of how far down the mound goes, it's kind of crazy. Some people, little haunted love going on right there. And then kind of going up. You can see this is like by far. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the next level down. So maybe we can even get maybe a better perspective on it. So what's going on, Rita? How are you today? So if you guys listened to episode 56, 56 had all to do with Philippe Park and what's going on here. So the major thing that we're looking at, oh my word, my hair looks very windblown. It's very, very windy. It's not nearly as stormy as as the hurricanes that are said to be protected. This area is protected from it, but it is very, very, very windy and kind of chilly for this late. The main stories that we're tracking down. Oh, Nancy, I wish you were out here with us then. We're going to have to interview you as I get closer to it. But we're going to be here, Nancy, later if you want to. We're going to come back at dusk, too. So message me, Nancy, if you want to get involved in kind of what we're doing tonight here. We'd love to have you along. I'm going to get it off me and up to here. So the story goes from the west side. This is primarily the east side. You can see the shadow, or at least the ghost of a shaman who is said to have essentially ascended to this mound. This would have been the temple mound. As we go up like this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down even further so you guys can see. Backwards, I just don't want to walk backwards. So this would have been the temple mound, which would have been the center of the tribe's cultural place. So the village, here we go. So a village would have around this, and there would have been several burial mounds all around this, as well as other things, other mounds, and also a village. I think it said over 1,000 people lived in this village, and so when settlers came, they saw it as the center or the capital of the Toboggan tribe. And so this shaman is said to have come to the top, up there, but from the other side where Natalie is. And, oh, you go ahead. No, not at all. And to protect it, so that he could basically essentially raise. There are different descriptions of what the creature was. Some say it is a man, some say it's more of kind of like a giant sea serpent kind of thing. There's a lot of people here. Hopefully there won't be as many people here tonight when we go. But essentially he would raise this monster from the bay or from the land, different stories. And yeah, I know what the tribe was, I just can never pronounce it the right way. So I'm going to read it off of her. Tokabega tribe, the Tokabega tribe. But then there's also been stories of the first settler here, Philippe, which the park is named after, that his grave was destroyed by one of the storms, but that he also climbed here himself during a hurricane to protect himself, and ended up, he survived, but his homestead did not, which kind of goes against what you would think. So there's a lot going on here. And we're really essentially coming here today for a baseline, so we can kind of see what's going on. We can see what the park is like, so we come tonight at dusk, and we're getting history of it from Dr. Stark as well. So when we come back tonight, kind of have what it's like when it's the daytime, so we can maybe even see differences between them. At which time I'll probably be wearing a hat because this wind is doing crazy, crazy things. I don't know if you guys can see it. I'm going to turn around again. Just kind of see. So it's been kind of weird weather here in Florida, but this is essentially what I'm going to do. I can walk backwards on this part. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to sweep it around to the west side and get some shots of the west side as well. So there seems to be a lot of folklore that's both Native American folklore, but then also some settler folklore in it too. And of course, there's a lot surrounding Philippe because, you know, he was the first official settler in this area, but then also he just seemed to be a really sketchy guy that had a lot of stuff drawn to him as well. So I'm gonna go to the water's edge right now because you can do that and maybe get a better perspective on just how high this mound is. You know, we did mounds in several different places, including you know, when we were in Indiana, and none of them are this big. All right, so I'm gonna flip it around so you can see just how tall this is, you know? And one of the things that so you can see why this would have been chosen as kind of a lookout, but also as a center for things. We are here, like I said, with Dr. Brandy Starks. She is here with her pug. She is trying to get sensitive readings kind of off the dog as well. And that's something that she's been doing for 3 generations of pugs. But then also, good morning, Amanda, how are you? It's good to see you out with us today. But also, you know, it's part of what how she approaches the paranormal. So I'm basically looping around to the west side now, hoping to run into Natalie. I'm assuming that Natalie is having an EVP session at what's considered kind of the entrance spot. So we'll probably see her as we loop around here. But I'm just gonna, like, if you can see how developed this is. So they've got the foundations here that are meant to kind of keep the integrity, but also add information up. I see Natalie all the way up there. She's gonna be so happy that I did my Facebook Live without her, so she didn't have to appear on camera. I'm gonna kind of switch over to this, and wow, the atmosphere just completely changes. So we're under trees now, under these huge, huge oaks that are kind of mixing with the palm trees, which is something we haven't seen too much of this in our exploration. So we have these like palms, and then now it's, I don't know how to age these trees. I don't know how to exactly tell, because we've been fooled before by them. Look at that one right there. Oh my gosh, coming down. Look at that. This area is completely different the way it feels. You can totally see how someone would find majesty in this, and how someone would be drawn to this. Look at the way that the trees just kind of like perfectly frame the mound. It's meshing. Oh, it's crazy. So this is, I'm gonna throw out my ugly mug for a sec. So 400 years old is what Nancy's telling us, and Nancy's done some research. Nancy, we're gonna have to maybe put some, when we actually do the episode, put some of your research notes in there as well if you're cool with that. But one of the things that we've been tracking since our experience in Mound State Park is this idea of fairy trees, which seems so European, and you can't find too much of it in Native American folklore that we've found yet. But I'm gonna go focus on them. So there's Natalie and Dr. Starks and the pug. So the main tree in the front, which I will definitely send pictures of, I've already gotten some really cool pictures of that, this is gonna totally have to be the focus of when we come tonight, because I can see this happening. Like coming from this direction, which would be the west, up through here. But anyway, to continue the thought on the trees, we've already seen quite a few, what we can best describe as fairy ring type trees. Those are trees that are hollowed out, especially at the base. And we've seen a ton of those here already. And so it's kind of out there that, you know, and Dr. Stark said this as well, that this would be an actual gateway, and that's why the gentleman, the shaman, and maybe even Philippe and, you know, other reportings, or tons of other Native Americans hanging around, because this would have been burial places that were destroyed, that these trees might kind of hold the key to it. And it does when you're here. This is why we actually come out to locations when we're studying this folklore. If you look at these trees, it does seem to, like, you know, form a, there we go, they don't even know they're on camera yet. It does seem to form all around, and of course the big one. And there's been a ton of these kinds of holes. So we're gonna come over here. Can you say the name of the pug for me again? Because I totally... Patroclus. Which is from the Odyssey as well?
The Iliad.
The Iliad. Beautiful. I don't know if you want to say hello. I'm doing a Facebook Live.
Sure.
Okay, beautiful.
So far, Patroclus was kind of slow at the top, but he took a lot of interest in this side of the mound. He's taking a potty break right now.
That's creepy.
Sorry.
That's creepy that the internet just recognized you and
Does
said,
really?
"Would you like to tag Brandy Stark in this?"
Yay!
There you go.
Oh, and you tagged me.
Yep.
I recognize this. Okay, it's good. So he was really interested in this side of the mound, which I find fascinating. He liked the walls, he liked the stairs, which is unusual because pugs normally are not stair climbers, and he lives in a one-story house, so this is, you know, very unusual for him. He got much more energetic on this side, was interested in overlooking, standing on the wall and overlooking kind of this area here. As I said, the one time I took him out, this is only his second paranormal pug adventure, but he did actually ping on something at Albert Whitted, where he stared at this one area for about 20 seconds, completely still. And it turns out that was one of the areas where the person who called us in had actually felt tapped or petted, essentially. So he's kind of back to being distracted here. He was definitely much more focused up on the stairwell and on this side of the mound. But he's doing well. I'm glad he livened up a little.
Yeah, and so kind of a successful outing with him, especially in training. Now, what age do you think is like the primary age? Because you were saying your oldest is 13.
Yes. So the 13.
And how old is he?
He's 8.
He's 8.
So what I have oftentimes found is I usually start mine middle age because they're settled down enough and mature enough that they're not going to go berserk.
Yeah.
And he's pretty mellow, but they're not so old that something like this is going to be kind of difficult. So I didn't bring the 13-year-old because I wasn't really sure about the stairs for him in the mound because he's getting up there. But Patroclus is actually really handling things pretty well. And again, my other concern is that he's always been part of a grumble or a group of pugs, so he doesn't do a lot of solo activity, which I think kind of throws him off a little when he's not with others. And he's handling this quite well.
So, I mean, we were trying to, I don't know, do you know Nancy Planeta?
I know the name.
Yeah, so she's been in this area for ages. I mean, I know that I've known her for 10 years, and I was on her show and stuff like that, and then I actually moved here and got to meet her finally.
Okay.
But you know, she was talking about some of the stuff. We were trying to date the trees, because it does seem as if she's saying go to this area is probably, you mean over here, right, Nancy? Okay. But the trees seem to be framing the mound.
Yes.
In some place that you wouldn't in a way that you wouldn't normally think of as especially a central mound area. So these trees aren't probably 600 or 700 years old.
And they do have another very old tree in the heart of Safety Harbor as well.
Okay.
But if you look at that tree that's right up there, they've actually built the wall around it, which is pretty cool.
Right. And so if we were talking about right before we went on camera, when we first got up here, when we were on our way up here, we talked about entrance ways, whether we want to call them vortexes or whatever, and that these fairy trees might contribute to that kind of aspect of things. Now out here, and you see how many trees there are that seem to be focused up towards the mound, it's kind of interesting.
Really?
Whether that idea is makes even more sense.
And it does.
I wonder, this is just a theory. I wonder if this is a vortex kind of place, and this place is known for escaping harm. Wouldn't it be interesting if the whole place just disappeared during these horrible storms and came back?
Oh, that would be.
You know what I'm saying? Almost like a little,
almost
like a little, whether it's a time slip and it actually fast forwards, or whether it just disappears for a moment. You know, during the worst of the storm. It's kind of interesting. And as you and I were saying earlier, we're folklorists. We get to make up crap like this. And as long as it sounds cool and makes some kind of sense culturally, it
Well, I can do one other tie-in for you, particularly to St. Pete. And that is that this mound is also associated with Narvaez, who's one of the conquistadors who comes through this area. And of course has the ill-fated expedition where only 4 men
How weird
survived.
bringing a dog with that story in the background, right?
Seriously, because Weeden Island
Remember that story, Natalie? About he fed the
Yes.
nose of the chief to the dog?
Yep, that's the one I was about to tie it to. Weeden Island itself is said that there was a young man who stopped Narvaez from invading their village, and so he cut off his nose and ears. And the mother came out to protect her son, and he sicked his dogs on her, and she was disemboweled. So Narvaez is actually part of the haunting and part of the story of the local Native Americans, both here and at Weeden Island. So both actually, Weeden Island has a haunted woman, a female spirit, the mother who was killed still, and there's a midden there as well. And so she still watches over that area. And then here we have the priest.
All right, so this Weeden Island one is a new one for us. So it looks like Tripping on Legends episode 58 is going to be about Weeden Island. So
Actually, I'm planning on going down. Again, I wanted to check it out more, and if I've got one page started on it, and there's a Civil War, 2 Confederate soldiers were buried out. There's a little cemetery right on the edge.
Really?
You cannot climb the midden. It does have a fence around it, but they actually do archaeological digs there.
yeah.
And in fact, this morning they had a photographic shoot, and I was going to get a group to do it, but they ran out of tickets, so I couldn't do it. So I'm planning on going back again.
Yeah. So Natalie, what did you experience? Natalie is here. I'm just showing you temporarily, don't worry. Natalie is here.
Hi.
Hi. And she was in this area, so she was more into that area that Nancy's pointing out, that we pointed out. Anything that you kind of...
No, nothing yet. Nothing.
I mean, when we come back, this is the area. I mean, I don't know if you've been out to that area yet, but it's totally like a different feel. So you can come under the canopy of these trees. So does that look like some place that we're going to kind of camp out? Not officially camp out, but like hang out at?
Definitely
for
over
it.
there.
Definitely over there? Okay. So I'm...
In fact, multiple groups that I've walked through here with, the psychics always sense something going on here. Usually like a ceremony or a service or a gathering of people. So.
And I think we actually we linked to one of those things where they were talking about the thing was going on there. So I'm going to sign off because I need to get some pictures here because this place is pretty amazing, and I want to maybe just kind of not use any technology for a little bit here. So this is part 1 from Safety Harbor. I'm Christopher Balzano. I'm Christopher Balzano. Wait a minute, wait.
I'm Natalie Crist.
I'm Brandy Stark.
And here's hoping all your trips are legendary. We'll be back tonight, probably around 8 o'clock or so. We might do something before then, but definitely we have to get some grapefruit and some other things and have dinner. But other than that, we're trying to get here for dusk. So chances are that's between 7:30 and 8. So we'll let you guys know. Have a good one.